Welcome to the video where I will explain why do I like European Tier 1 cruiser Gryf in the world of warships. Well, here it is. So Gryf was actually a Polish mine layer. So it wasn't a cruiser, but it's a cruiser in the game. Interesting feature here that you can see this bar here above the waterline. That's actually was historically put there. It's about a wooden beam that made sure that when ships dock alongside it, they wouldn't really damage the body of the ship. So here it is. This other ship it's pretty good in terms of the fact that you have 3 guns in front and 3 guns in the back. So you have 6 guns overall. You can output a lot of firepower this way very quickly, and you can shoot directly forward with 3 guns as well, or directly back with 3 guns. So it's also very convenient and very enjoyable to do when not a lot of ships at this tier can do such a thing. I believe only Black Swan has 4 guns in front situation. So therefore you do have ability to output a lot of ordnance at the enemies. Now let's look at the modules that you got here. You got 120mm guns, which reload time of 3.4 seconds, and it's not actually pretty historically accurate. I think the ship had only ability to shoot 9 to 12 shots per minute, not at 3.4 seconds each shot, so that's not exactly 100% accurate, but that's fine. Your turn speed is 18 seconds, which is not bad also, and given the fact that how many guns you got, that's not a problem. Your damage is 425, which is not a lot, sadly, but you do have a lot of guns to compensate for that. Now your hit points are 7,550. That's pretty decent. That's good enough. Your armor is, of course, is paper thin at 6 to 10 millimeters. You got 4 anti-aircraft mounts. I'm not sure why you need them. You're never gonna see an aircraft in the tier 1. There's no carriers in tier 2 or tier 1, so why would you ever even need that? Your range for firing is 10.7 kilometers, which is pretty good, and your speed is 20 knots, which is also it's also okay. The range is also pretty good, that you can fire at the enemy quite far away beyond most of the other ships' range. Your detection range is at 7.38 kilometers though, and there's a problem with that, is that quite often you'll be found before you find the enemy. Before you find the enemy, right? And this will result in the situations where you will find that shells are flying at you before you can see where to respond to. Now, as I said, this ship is a mine layer, and so you can see there, right behind it, this has a ports to drop the mines. Alright, so let's get into the battle and see how this thing performs. Now, it's going to take a bit of time to find a tier 1 battle because it's a tier 1. So in the meantime, I will talk about the history of the ship. So the ship was built in France for Polish Navy. It was a contract. They were asking for a mine layer in France, and so they started out in 1934. They put it in the water in 1936, and then they had to finish it up by They finished it all up by 1937, and then it was given over to Poland in 1938. From then it sailed from France back to Poland. On the way it stopped in Sweden to pick up the shells it needed, because it had actually the guns from the Swedish gun company Bofors. So it needed shells from there. Overall, a lot of equipment on the ship was not French in a way. It was partially Polish, partially from United States, from other countries. So they aggregated a lot of equipment from different countries and placed it on the ship. Now, before the World War II, the ship was mostly conducting maneuvers to train the crew, because even after the first sailing from France to Poland, the crew experienced seasickness. So my understanding maybe is that the crew was not as experienced in this case. It was not a lot of experienced crew also, and so they did put in a lot of training to make sure that the crew would be ready for battle. At the same time, it was also used to train cadets, because they would every so often take on cadets and sail around with them, so the cadets will get naval training at the same time. After the start of World War II, it it set out for its mission. Basically, its main mission was that depending, it didn't know exactly who was going to be the opponent, but it's going to be the Soviet Union or the Germany, and so its mission was to mine the coastal waters of those countries. And in this case, of course, since World War II started against Germany, it set out to mine the Gdansk Bay that was held by Germans in order to kind of close it off. But the result was not very successful, because when it arrived there, and there was also other ships that arrived to support it, it got attacked by aircrafts, and as a result, the captain of the ship died. All right, here we are. We're going to battle. So the captain of the ship died. Some of the sailors died, and the officer who took over as the captain of the ship decided that it was way too dangerous right now to try to keep the mines where they are, because it could explode and detonate not only the ship but the ships nearby, and so they dumped all the mines in the sea. Some of those mines already were damaged by the aircraft raid that the ship suffered through. Now I'm gonna go on a full speed here and go directly to join with those guys there, the Aryan Hashidati. Now, this ship does not have a very good turning circle. It has a very wide turning circle. That's actually historically accurate. So it takes a while to turn that way. Once it turns, kind of like, oh, you know, look, I can maneuver, right? It takes a while before you can get back. So, since it's a tier 1 battle, it's actually extremely important to stick around together with everybody else. Otherwise, they'll just be picked off very quickly. So, once this disaster of attempt to lay mines occurred, the ship sailed back to a city of Hell. Not back, it's actually set out from a different city. So it sailed for Hell. Well, actually not Hell, but Hel. That's how it's supposed to be pronounced. And it set in there for repairs because it needed repairs. When they realized how much of extensive damage that the ship sustained, it was decided, well, we can't, it's gonna take a while to repair. So they decided to make it into a floating battery. On September 3rd, it got attacked first by the surface ships of the German Navy, then by aircrafts continuously. The result was that the ship sank. After multiple raids, it just could not fight off all of them. They did take off some of the guns that they could rescue off the ship and use it as a battery to defend the city. But in the end, after Poland surrendered, the Germans took the ship, they moved it to a different slightly location, and they used it for the target practice for war bombers. After World War II, the Poles used it for other target practice for war bombers in the end. Then eventually they kind of partially dismantled the ship, partially blown it up, and that was like in 1960s. And that was the end of the service for the ship. Alright, there we go, and we're gonna take advantage of the fact that we do have very good range to punish the enemy. Here, that's another one like me, so hopefully we're gonna get a few hits here. Gonna go 3/4 because we're doing pretty well. We set the guy on fire. You see, like I said, it's very enjoyable to put a lot of ordnance into the enemy. And because the turning circle is really wide here, I'm pretty much enjoying the fact that I can take the enemy here, but that's not a good thing for me because I suffer from the same problem. Now I'm gonna need to speed up because otherwise the enemy will kill me off here. There's multiple attacks coming at me. Alright, we're gonna take cover. Oh, there's another guy here, so that we're not gonna last here long now because Although this is an Italian one, I didn't like it. It has a hard time aiming on things, I know that. We don't have much of a health left. But I can see we're doing a lot of damage at the same time, despite of all that. We did a lot of damage, and why are we doing that? Because fast reload time and a lot of shells that we can fire at the enemy. All that adds our ability to really output a lot of damage. And it does concentrate enemies' attention on us, and we do have a lot of hit points, but we can still take a lot of that damage without kind of suffering you know, immediate loss of a ship. So all these factors kind of contribute to the fact why I like this ship. Well, that's it. Thank you for watching, for listening. If you like this video, please like it. If you didn't like it, don't like it. And please subscribe.